Trinity Road Times, Alec Lower joins us on the Adam Gold Show. Your breakdown, complete with examples on video, should be required reading for all State fans. Go to trinityroadtimes.com and check it out. Alec, how do you feel today now, 3 days removed? 3 days removed from Saturday night.
Well, I'll tell you, Adam, I've watched the game all the way through about 2 times now. It didn't get any better the first time, and it didn't really get any better the second time. A lot of people came out of this feeling like the offense was kind of the big storyline. Obviously both very bad on both sides of the ball. But, watching it all the way through a couple of times now, I do feel like my big takeaway is the offense might be more fixable than what happened to them on the defensive side of the ball. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Unfixable on defense? I was going to go to offense, but now you've piqued my curiosity here because we all trust Tony Gibson. I think Dave Doran owns the patent on that phrase based on the lead up to the start of the season. What can the defense really be bad?
I don't think it's going to be bad all season necessarily. Like, I think this is easily the best offense that they're going to face, and so that's part of it. But what you saw, I think, was an offense that made a lot of mistakes.
Right.
I think there was plays to be had there. I didn't think McCall was particularly good. The second watch through of the game, some other stuff started to pop up for me that I didn't notice the first time through. The defense more just got dominated, and that was kind of the alarming part to me. Like, when I watched State early in the season, and this has been true like the last couple of seasons, they've always had kind of a stinker early in the year, and there's a lot of stuff you can point to that they specifically did not do well.
Right.
This was really the first time in a while I've seen them truly get dominated. Like, that front six really did not have a good game, and they really struggled with. They got countered to death, basically. Right. Tennessee ran some variation of GH counter in this game, probably 30 times. I mean, they knew what they wanted to do, and by the second half, the State knew it was coming, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. And so that was kind of that was pretty concerning to me.
It looked like Tennessee ran the ball, at will, no matter what they did. And then when you're expecting the run, everybody kind of cheats up, and then there are big-time, wide-open receivers down the field. They sort of got big played, even though they won the game. Western Carolina did a lot of big play stuff against them, too. Did you think that, that was just first game rust, and maybe this is just a team that they're just not equipped to deal with, and it'll get better?
Yeah, I think that's been the trend with Gibson, right, is the team generally does get better over the course of the year. I mean, you have, some guys that are coming to linebacker now that I think have the physical ability to play the position well. But, Sean Brown's played 2.25 games at linebacker, and so he'll improve over the course of the year. I think that stuff will get better. I wasn't particularly concerned about the defense after the Western Carolina game. I thought that was a team that really stuck with a quick game kind of as their basis. They didn't run the ball a lot. They didn't hold up real well in pass protection, which actually made me feel better about State's front going into this Tennessee game. It was more of just like a really good game plan for them, and they executed it really well. Tennessee, kind of the same thing, though, but more concerning for, the defense, because it wasn't a game plan that was designed to work around Tennessee's weaknesses like Western Carolina was. It was more of just like, we're just going to blow you apart at the line of scrimmage. And, they were washing defensive ends down the line, and State had a lot of trouble with, fitting the counter plays. And Tennessee would run these out of 12 personnel, which is a 2 tight end set. And State really struggled with this arc block from the play side tight end on these plays. It was, picking off flowing linebackers that are trying to fit the new gaps on the front side of counter like that. These were things that we've seen pop up in the past with State, but the defensive line has been so good against the run the last couple of years that they've been able to kind of mitigate that weakness with the front that they play. But they weren't good in this game. I mean, the defensive ends, not even Davin Van. I mean, they didn't really do anything particularly noteworthy to kind of slow those plays down in this game, and that's where it started for them, I think.
Alec Lower, Trinity Road Times, is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. All right, let's get to the offense, since we always seem to be focused more on that anyway, although the defense was concerning. My takeaway from the Western game was, man, NC State didn't really run the ball all that well. I know what the numbers looked like at the end. Jordan Waters really struggled, apart from the first touchdown run I thought was better, because that was just a huge, great effort run. The second one was kind of a broken play, and he's gone. But they didn't run the ball well, and they didn't run it effectively against Tennessee, apart from a couple of Hollywood Smothers runs. What do you see from the offensive line?
So you won't see it really, if you just count the number of Tennessee defensive linemen and Western Carolina defensive linemen that were in the backfield. But I actually think State's closer on the offensive line than the tape shows.
Okay.
At first, I think they have 4 guys that are playing pretty well on the offensive line. I thought Anthony Belton has been really good so far this year. Anthony Carter at left guard is a guy that was questioned a lot in the offseason. I think his tape has been really good this year. But State had some issues in this game at guard and at H-back, which has been the H position has been a disaster for them this year. They have not. That's part of the reason why you haven't seen State run as much counter this year as they did last year, because a lot of that is GH, which is guard and H-back, who's Matt McCabe is getting most of the snaps there right now. There hasn't been a lot of success blocking from there. And, the other component about this, you mentioned Jordan Waters, is, one thing I really like about Waters is his patience, his eyes. I think he has the best eyes of any back State's had in the last 5 or 6 years. But this is a guy who's over 6 feet, right? He's a big back. He's a more power-oriented back. You have to be able to run through arm tackles and shoestring tackles. And he's been brought down by those for whatever reason. And he's on just 4 or 5 of those, he's left over 100 yards on the field. There was one play in the Tennessee game. It was an outside zone play that was blocked almost perfectly. Like it was a beautiful picture. And he got basically tripped. And that's the kind of thing that just can't happen. And it's kind of all working together to deflate the run game.
All right, you said that you didn't think that Grayson McCall was that bad. You have delved into the tape. I have not. To me, the game and it's who knows if it's going to continue going forward. There's a difference between playing in the Sun Belt and playing even in the ACC, albeit we could joke and say there's not that big a difference. Is it possible that the game is just a little bit slower in the Sun Belt than it is in a Power 4 league?
I suppose it's possible. It's a hard question for me to answer, having never played in that level of football. But I think for me the thing was he obviously had 2 fumbles in this game. I think I turned it off in the third quarter, but I think he had 2 fumbles in this game. I couldn't. I
don't blame you
anymore. But that's a disaster, obviously. But the problem I had with this, I didn't think the receivers won in man coverage. The pass protection didn't hold up super well, and there was a lot of balls that were knocked down to the line of scrimmage, which is on the quarterback. But when I look at McCall, I look for accuracy and I look for processing, because those are really his strong suits. And I think the processing has been okay. There was a couple plays he had that I thought were read very, very well. There was one I wrote about. It was a pure progression play with it was 5 reads, and he got all the way to the 4th read. He read the play very, very well, but the McKay lost at guard in pass protection, and he got sacked before he could get the ball off. So there's stuff like that. But then at the same time, one thing he did really, really well at Coastal was the whole RPO game. And there's a play in this game, a glance RPO that State ran that should have been a touchdown, and he handed the ball off, which is just there's a little bit of tentativeness to his play right now that you didn't see on the tape. And I think that might be connected to what's been kind of a wobbling accuracy, he's been up and down there. It's just inconsistent on those fronts. The stuff you want to see on tape exists, but it's just inconsistent, which hasn't been like him.
The pick six that basically, I'm going to say it ended the game. It kind of did. But the pick six that flipped the game, I think that's probably the most accurate way to look at it. Was that just a bad throw? I know there was some pressure in his face, so he had to put maybe a little bit more air under the ball than he wanted to. What did you see on the tape from that?
That was a tough one for me. So it's a slide route from Joe Lee, and I'm not aware of any circumstance where he would stop running there, right? So like there's some routes where, if it's man coverage, right, you're staying on the move toward the boundary, and if it's zone, you're like sitting down. Like I'm not aware of any situation where he would stop running there, and he did stop running. So I was tempted to put that more on Justin Jolie, and it sounded like it in the post game. I believe I didn't listen to it. Somebody told me this, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe McCall said there was a miscommunication. Which to me is him saying, it wasn't my fault, but I'm not trying to blame my receiver either, like right. Publicly. It's kind of how that sounded. So that was kind of my interpretation was, I thought Joe Lee was supposed to keep moving toward the sideline, and he kind of throttled down. And it was a chemistry thing maybe. I don't know. Like it just wasn't a clean play. And you saw that against Western too, the pick he threw in that game, which I put on McCall. But it wasn't a bad throw. It was McCall expecting Concepcion to keep moving.
Right.
And he settled down in the zone. And so you've seen that, I think, twice now.
See, I thought that was on KC Concepcion, that play from the Western Carolina game. That was my first reaction to that. Alec Lower, Trinity Road Times, joining us. All right, real quick, how much of what we saw forget about the Louisiana Tech game, and I know the coaches can't because they have to use that one to get ready for the next one, which is at Clemson. How much of what we saw and what you think is fixable can be improved by the time they head to Death Valley a week from noon this Saturday?
Well, I think offensively they can go a long way quickly. I really do think they can. Because you talk about the big thing that's been really the discussion point after McCall has been the run blocking, and I really think the run blocking is pretty close. And there's some really positive development on some of these plays. And, it'd be one thing if they were just getting blown off the line by the defensive line, but they're not. Like, what you're seeing is, good development, and one guy loses, and penetration blows up his own play. And so you're seeing a lot more of that, and that to me is a little bit more fixable than if you just had issues up and down the line. And then, there's stuff in the passing game that's close. There was the play that I wrote about. I really liked the way McCall processed it, but you had two receivers fall down. Like, there's mistakes getting made offensively that I think, are correctable pretty quickly. And I like that Louisiana Tech is next. Louisiana Tech is not good at all.
Right.
And so this might be an opportunity to kind of fix that and work on those things. I don't know how to project it necessarily on the defensive front. Davin Vann, Brandon Cleveland are really good football players. Mm-hmm. And so, where that goes, I kind of just have to wait and see and what that ends up looking like against Clemson. But, I'm still hopeful that unit can be good because I had big expectations for them, and they've proven it, the last couple of years. Like Van and Cleveland have been really good players. They were good players last year. I thought Price was good too. So, I'm still optimistic on the team in the long run. And you mentioned that pick six, that really deflated the game a lot. Like there's a mental component to that too, right? And it really fell apart for them mentally at that point, I thought, and maybe the score ended up being a little bit worse than it could have been. If that doesn't happen, there's no way they win the game, of course. But
it's the final score is an indication that even if State scores a touchdown there, it's probably delaying the inevitable. But it would not have been as absolutely lopsided. Alec Lower at Alec Lower on Twitter. Too many T's there. Trinity Road Times. Go check it out. Appreciate your time, man. Talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you.
You got it. Alec Lower.